Now, is it legal for one person to have another person's handwriting analyzed? Could I have, like, one of my sisters or father?
Yes, it's public. It's public knowledge. You can have, just like if I ask you to look at a picture, tell me what you think of this picture or photograph. It's no different. And legally, the Supreme Court has handed down decisions that say it's even legal to use it as a hiring tool.
Really?
Yes.
And so do you work for companies?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about what you're looking for when you, is it just an application you're reviewing, or do they have to write something down?
Well, they have to write something down. Usually it's in a second interview. And the only legal limit is that if you have one second interview's handwriting done, you need to have them all. All second interviews need to be done. So that's what makes it fair and equitable. But I'm looking to see if the person who's writing actually matches what that company is looking for, and that's taking the company culture into consideration too. So I do that. I do executive coaching, help executives to use their best self.
Now, in the Supreme Court decision, did it say why it's legal? Did it acknowledge graphology as an art, a science, a useful tool? Yes.
On my website, which people would be able to find, I have the Supreme Court decisions listed there. So
there's more than one decision?
Oh, yes, there's more than one decision. It's been handed down over time. That's why it's also now finally legal in court, where a question document was the only, which is measurable. In other words, if I wanted to prove that you wrote something, I have to go in and I have to show through measurement alone, not personality, that the dynamics in this writing match or do not match the dynamics in this writing.
Now, do you ever go into court and, like, your testimony different from the FBI or some other expert?
No, I've never had that happen. I've usually been the only expert called to the stand, and then the other side could then hire someone and discredit what I've said.
I'm laughing because I would love to see you get a hold of Rod Blagojevich.
Oh, so would I.
Right.
I'd love
that. That would be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, could you mention any of the companies that have hired you?
Well, I presently do some consulting at, let's say, Power Construction in Schaumburg, big construction company. 2 companies in Wisconsin, Sleep Apnea Solutions and Oxygen One.
And are, you know, would they be looking at the executives, executives being recruited, or are they looking at, like, construction workers?
They would be looking at hiring, or they would be looking at coaching, because I also do coaching. So if they have someone who's moving from one position to another, and that person needs a little coaching on how to make that transition out of being one of the group to being a supervisor, which is not always easy, I also do some coaching.
Now, when you're analyzing handwriting, do the employees know that their handwriting is being analyzed?
Oftentimes they know. I like it if they know, but they don't have to know in order for it to be legal. They do have to, you know, you ask them for a handwriting sample, so they know kind of what you're, you know, if you say please submit your application in writing, you know, in your own hand, then they know.
And when you asked me to give you a sample, you said the content really doesn't matter.
That's right. Unless something really jumps out off the page that's quite different, then I might read that word. That word would have more emotional influence.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't read it.
Now, are you getting ready to give it to me?
Would you like that?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeanne.
Well, first of all, I said, Jay, that your mind is extremely active.
Yeah.
Very, very active mind. And you really don't have a lot of what I call ego. And so you're more interested in concepts and ideas, and you have definitely have your own value system. That's very important to you. And it would be difficult for you to work someplace that didn't uphold similar values and principles. I did some simple measurements here so that maybe our audience can see.
Here.
Yeah.
I could hold it up.
Okay.
Well, we'll see.
The
Our great camera woman, Jeanne,
right.
can pick it up.
When we're looking at the paper represents the environment, and the left side of the paper here represents where I'm coming from, the past. The right side represents the future, where I'm going to. The top part represents abstract ideas, like you write to the very top of the page, and so you're not accustomed to taking direction from authority. You're much more accustomed to being your own authority.
You're putting it very nicely.
I
Thank you.
thought so. I'm used to that.
Okay.
And so what we see is that it's really amazing. I don't think the audience can see it, but where you started and where you ended are in the exact same spot. And you couldn't do that consciously. You had to do that unconsciously. And this means that you move ever so, like you definitely move forward. You're not stuck in the past in any way, shape, or form. This margin shows that you kind of over-risk a little bit here, and then you draw back. So you need your own private space, and you need to make sure, so you take 2 steps forward, and then you step back and say, okay, I'll go in that direction. So those are, you have a lot of good spacing between the words and between the lines. And so objectivity is important to you, and planning, and time for thinking. I circled S's because they're larger. The last letter of a word, particularly if it's an S, is much larger than the letters before it. So that means under certain circumstances you want to have the last word. And it's interesting because the S represents words and verbal concepts.
Well, I promise I'll get the last word in the show.
Okay, good. Yes, I think you will. You are somewhat of an introvert. I would not call you an extrovert, even though you can be outgoing in certain circumstances. That's a brief description.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And what about, let's say, parents having their children handwriting analyzed?
That's one that is really close to my heart, because in today's world it's very hard for us to get a picture of what's really going on with our children. I have 5 grown children. I would not want to be raising children today. And the handwriting of the child, or the printing, or even the drawings can kind of help the parents understand the individuality that's trying to emerge in that child. It also helps them to see which parent the child is wanting a little more interaction with or direction from. It's a lot of really good things.
So did you analyze your children's handwriting when they were young?
Much to their dismay, yes.
And how accurate, how helpful was analyzing your own children's handwriting?
To me, it was really quite helpful. Quite helpful. It also helped with controls, you know.
Whose controls, yours or theirs?
No, controlling them. I mean, they knew that I knew. They knew that I could see, and I didn't hold that over them. But I have to tell a story of I used to work in the schools and do kind of little lectures in the classroom, and my 3rd son saw me coming down the hall, and he was walking with his friend, and his friend said, "Oh, isn't that your mom?" And Spencer said, "No, my mom's name is Jeanne Weiland. That's Jean Drew."
Yeah.
So he didn't want anybody to know it was me.
Yeah. And your grandchildren, and have you analyzed your grandchildren?
Yes, I have. I only have 2 grandchildren, but yes, I've analyzed both.
And then
of
what
them.
about like son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws?
Well, my one son-in-law has not given me his handwriting yet. No, I only have one son-in-law. I have daughter-in-laws because I have 4 sons and 1 daughter.
And any particular reason why he's holding out?
He's just privacy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, from what I understand from what your graphology reading was for me, I think it helpful, you know.
I hope so.